Howdy, runners, and welcome to another episode of our Detachment 842 podcast. Today we have a very special guest, our very own Detachment Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Kirk Hoffman. Thank you for being with us today, Colonel Hoffman.
Thank you for the opportunity, gentlemen.
Today we're going to dive into kind of your experience as an ROTC instructor, as well as your educational history and your Air Force history, and kind of just take some advice that you have for not only the fellow cadets that we have here at Detachment 842, but also just anyone who's interested in our program or the Air Force in general. But first, let's get into what's kind of been your career history and your educational background up to this point.
Okay. Well, I started in ROTC back in 1999, so yes, that's a long time ago. I went to Mississippi State University on a HSSP scholarship as an engineer, so I did mechanical engineering, and I stuck with that for the full 5-year tour. I was, at a later point in my career, actually interested in maybe changing majors. I was starting to reach some struggles, so I can certainly sympathize with some of my cadets who are in the tech majors. It's difficult. You get to that upper class, junior, senior classes, and they really start getting tough. But I was advised by my cadre at the time. The commander said, you'll lose your scholarship. You may be able to still stay in the Air Force. It was a little bit less restrictive than it is now. And I said, well, I find that being a mechanical engineer is going to be just right for me. So I continued on the way and got through the degree. Graduated in 2004 and commissioned that same year. I actually did 2 years as an engineer for the Air Force, doing developmental engineering acquisitions. So some of my cadets who may be interested in that route, we obviously have Major Medina, who has done testing and research as an ops analyst, but I can talk to that background at least a little bit of what it was like trying to walk into the Air Force, albeit many years ago, as a new lieutenant in a world where you probably have more contractors and civilian employees than you do active duty employees, which is the acquisitions world, kind of standard. Did that for a couple of years, but I worked with a lot of people who were in the aviation world at that job, people who were either retired and had done it or who were helping augment testing, and they talked about how much they enjoyed it, and I decided, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll try again and apply, and I got picked up. So then I became a CISO, so I went through training in Pensacola, and after that got picked up for Strike Eagles, so have gone through that entire pipeline, got qualified in the Strike Eagle at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, which is in Goldsboro, North Carolina. And then after that did my first operational tour at Lake and Heath, which is in the UK. So did a 3-year assignment out there with a combat deployment to Afghanistan, to Bagram Air Base, and then a rotation for a theater security package to Korea as well. So I've gotten to see both of those arenas, those AORs. And then subsequently was sent back to the States and went back to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base and did a combat tour again in the Strike Eagle, this time deploying to Al Dhafra when the ISIS fiasco kind of kicked off in 2014. So going to fly against that enemy and flying combat missions in Iraq and Syria. After that tour ended, I was then moved from the combat squadron to the schoolhouse for the Strike Eagle, which is also in North Carolina. So taught there for a while, and then afterwards I got picked up to go to Air Command and Staff College on what they call a fellowship. So I went to school. All the services have schools at the major level that are about a year long, and they are master's degree bestowing schools, and it's also part of your joint professional education requirements. So essentially think of it as like leadership school. So did that for a year, and then I taught there for a couple of years as part of the fellowship, and I got picked up for this job out of there. Other educational requirements, I do have a master's degree in kind of business management that I got from Troy University. I did that mostly virtually, just assignments all over the globe while I was working and doing that part-time, like on the weekends on free time. So not easy to do, but did it. And most officers you'll see take some of their own free time to go get a master's degree like that. Not everybody gets sent to go to an AFIT program where you can do just school. And then I got the second master's degree from the Air Force out of the Command and Staff College. That one is a little bit different because it's a military given master's degree. And then I've been through a number of educational courses that they've given for leadership courses. Every captain goes through Squadron Officer School, so you can all expect to go through that if you stay in long enough. And that's a 6.5-week program that's kind of another leadership school, getting you ready for the next tier or the next level of education and leadership. And gone through the schoolhouse to be a commander here. So that takes us up to today, I guess. You did ask the follow-on about why did I want to be here. There are a lot of reasons. I really enjoyed teaching. I've enjoyed being an instructor. I was an instructor for the Strike Eagle for several years before I ever taught in a classroom. And then teaching at the schoolhouse for the Strike Eagle, I specifically taught brand new lieutenants how to fly the F-15. And that's a very rewarding experience when you're teaching somebody how to do something they've never done before. And then when I taught at the Command and Staff College, I was teaching majors. So it's a different thing when you're teaching people in their 30s and maybe even their 40s than you are when you're teaching somebody who's in their teens and 20s. But still getting to teach and see people learn something new, even those old dogs learning some new tricks. It's a very rewarding experience. And I knew that with just some things going on with my family, with young children, my wife is active duty as well, that the stability of ROTC, having, knowing that I'm not going to be on some flying schedules where I might be flying at night and possibly called TDY, very late notice to go to X, Y, or Z. Some of that was all very attractive to me to apply, but at a far more important level, I knew that coming to ROTC was a way for me to make a benefit that lasted well beyond my years. You all are the next generation, and this is a very large detachment that creates 25 to 30 officers a year. Well, think of the thousands of people that those officers will reach and touch over the course of their life. So getting a chance to come to ROTC is a really great opportunity for any officer, because you get a chance to affect people that you'll never see, probably from every single career field. I've commissioned officers this last year to go to CISO, ABM, RPA, pilot, contracting, cyber, you name it. I mean, there's a lot of UTSA grads that are going out all over the world, and having a chance to impart some of my knowledge, my wisdom and expertise, not to say I know all the answers, but a lifetime worth of my experiences, plus the people, the mentors I've had, who I've learned from, the successes and the failures, to try to impart that to you all and hopefully give you a head start and maybe have you be better than I could ever be. That's a really cool challenge and a great opportunity.
Sir, one thing I really love about our detachment that I've gotten to kind of see throughout my years here at Detachment 842 is just, like you just said, so much experience, and that's just from one cadre member. And it wasn't even just Air Force stuff. It's life experience. It's ROTC experience, as you went through as yourself. And we get so many perspectives. We get officers, we get exceptional enlisted, we get even the civilian side with Mr. Yano and Mr. Haynes kind of being able to go both ways as well. And that's one thing that I think is really awesome about ROTC. And I know you kind of told us why you wanted to be an ROTC instructor, but speaking to any cadets who are freshmen right now or 200s, or even just kind of interested in the program, why would they join ROTC? What do you think is the biggest selling point that you think you benefit from as an ROTC cadet?
Well, there's a lot of answers to that, because everybody has some different initial foot in the door responses, right? I'm not going to lie and say that money isn't one of them. I was a high school scholarship recipient myself, and I wasn't 100% sold that it was what I wanted it to be. I've told you all the story now probably multiple times since I've been here, but it's 100% true that when I joined ROTC, I wasn't sure if this was going to be the long-term solution for my life, and I very quickly found a place where I was at home. Upperclassmen who took me under their wing, one in particular who is still a very dear friend of mine. I just messaged him earlier this week, that were like big brothers and big sisters and took me in, and then my peers, to the relationships you developed, and then you find a little bit of the why. I'm not going, again, money is a good way to get people interested. So we do have cadets who are freshmen who have scholarships and sophomores. Here though, I have far more who don't. So maybe there's the possibility of a great opportunity, of a good career, a good job, very good transactional type of benefits. Yes, the Air Force offers a good paying job for officers. It offers the chance to have leadership and an amazing resume when you walk out the door. If you only serve 4 years and you're do 4 years of college. Well, you're a 26-year-old who might have a really robust resume to go make a lot of money at a position in the corporate world. ROTC offers all those as great benefits and opportunities. And for my cadets who aren't on scholarship, if you can make it to the upper class levels, get contracted and get that monthly stipend, that probably helps pay a lot of bills that are, I know it's a factor for college kids. I remember scraping around for ramen and craft noodles and trying to make ends meet. But what you really need, if we're going to talk to the potential applicants, to 100s who are trying to figure out where are they in life, you need to find your why. And a lot of that starts with finding a place where you belong, a place where you feel a community, that you feel value and worth, that you feel valued as well by other people, that you find a purpose. Well, this stuff tells us we've got a lot of purpose. We've got a lot of purpose for this country. We serve a much greater good than ourselves, and we embrace something greater than ourselves. And that's hard for a younger person to understand, not to diminish or to put down young people, but you're still figuring out who you want to be in life. So finding out where that weather vane is pointing you, that just takes time in life as you grow. Well, maybe this, as Simon Sinek will say in his book, maybe this helps you find your why, that you're getting to serve something great and be in a place where you belong, in a place where you can make great friendships, which I know that you all have done in your time here. And then, as we think in the long game, you get to be an active duty officer. Think of the great things you can do, the great people you can work with. I don't trivialize this, and I certainly don't want to sound like I'm exaggerating. The best people I've met in my life were the people I've met in the service. Men and women who are exceptional people and great to work with, and that includes airmen and NCOs to officers of all ranks, and some of the civilians I've worked with and contractors as well. But the people I've been exposed to and the things I've gotten to do and the greater purpose I've had a chance to serve, it's a fulfilling thing, and you can walk away saying you have lived a life worth living. And that's what ROTC can ultimately give you if you find your why.
And you mentioning the why, obviously that's one thing that we get talked to a lot about as cadets, because like you said, it's just important to understand deep within yourself, like, why am I doing this? Maybe you kind of agree with and you want to be a part of the purpose, but I think it's important for you to know exactly why you are, where you are and what you're doing. And so I think that's really important. You spoke about kind of your different experiences with officers and airmen across the Air Force. Obviously, we've had you here for a year now at Detachment 842. How do you think your first year went, coming in with the expectations that you had?
Again, these good questions, kind of a loaded question. Last year was tough. I'm not going to lie and say it wasn't. I was certainly nervous coming into the job. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and I know that the semester prior to me getting here is when you all had to shutter the doors. You can't even come in. Everybody, we're going to try to figure out what telework and telelearning and just remote ROTC means, and that's a very difficult beast to try to defeat. And so walking in knowing that I wanted to get us in person as much as possible, getting a chance to meet with the staff at least virtually. I mean, the one good thing about this pandemic is we have learned how to use some of our technology to our advantage across the service. To be able to use things like Zoom and VPN connections so that I can have access and be as useful, or at least as close to it at home as I could be if I was in person. And building on some of the innovative training techniques that you all had developed in that semester prior, and then trying to say, now let's modify it again to do at least as some modicum of in person. So it was difficult, and trying to plan for that and adjust to that, and just to learn the ROTC battle rhythm in and of itself. It's very different than any other active duty job, because it's just a different administrative process when you're trying to take college students who are not under UCMJ authorities. I don't have Title 10 authorities over you like I do my active duty staff. So taking someone who is owned by the university in terms of their responsibilities for you, and having to kind of answer to the university as they are one boss for me, while still answering to the Air Force as my obviously my end game customer to get you all as new accessions, new lieutenants to replenish the force. So having to juggle that, how to answer to two bosses, how to work in COVID, all that was certainly a challenge. And as compared to what I envisioned coming in to what actually developed in being, I mean, there's obviously a difference. Maybe some rose-colored glasses on this side, and then reality slaps you in the face a little bit and says, okay, there has to be some change and some modification. But by and large, I don't think anyone from a outside looking in perspective could look at this detachment and say that last year was anything but a success. I'm not gonna say that there weren't some challenges. There were some very big challenges, and there were some things that were certainly disappointing that we had to overcome. And that gets a number of rabbit holes that we could go jump down to discuss those. But it was successful because we got good training. We started to get back in and figure out what in-person is again. We executed events that other detachment commanders reached out to me and said, how are you guys doing this? Schools on the West Coast that were completely shut down, schools in the Northeast completely shut down. We're having multi-det exercises at Lackland with Texas and Houston. We're going to Camp Bullis. We're going to football games and participating as honor guard. We're doing things that looked at least normal-ish when other people can't do anything like that. And that's on the cadets. That's on my staff. Working hard and saying, it's hard, but we can do it. We can go achieve because it's important that we go do these things. We get learning, we get togetherness. We just get to be involved, because I can't teach you how to be a leader over that 2D screen. There has to be a human touch. There has to be a connection, and there has to be a chance for you to go out and actually execute, and if need be, fail. Because failure is okay too. This is a consequence-free environment in ROTC. No combat mission is being missed. We are not losing multi-million-dollar equipment. We aren't getting people killed. At field training, you have a few people did get hurt because they fell off the obstacle course, but it's relatively consequence-free. A chance for you all to get to practice and learn. And the worst thing that happens is, we didn't do lead lab as well as we wanted, or this exercise at Camp Bullis, maybe we had to delay it a little while because we didn't have that nurse on hand until we could get Mr. Haynes' wife over there to support. Whoops. We learn, we grow, and then guess what? We hot wash it and we get better. That's life, and that's learning, and it's a great opportunity here. So this year was a success, and I won't let anybody convince me otherwise. Now we can pick apart those pieces that we could do better at and try to improve.
Sir, and as you stated, obviously the big one, right? We had, like you said, so many successes, so many challenges that helped us grow. Obviously the biggest one being probably COVID. And not to say that in any way, shape, or form COVID was a good thing or that anyone would have asked for that, but it did kind of exemplify to our cadets, like this the thing we've been taught from the beginning, right? Flexibility is the key to air power. So much is important in the Air Force about being able to change whenever you need to, being able to bend here and just kind of adapt to your situation. It wasn't ideal, but we learned so much about Zoom. We were able to do so much virtually. We were able to safely execute Beast. We worked our way around, and we navigated so well that it was almost a lesson itself in growth and just the ability to adapt to the changes. And I think that was really important going into field training. So obviously as a deferred AS300 because of COVID, I feel like my experience in both my 200 and 300 year prepared me so well, because 200 year I almost got a full semester of FTP, and then also I got this semester where it was like just learning on the fly. It was like, all right, this is how we're going to change here, this is how we're going to adapt, and I think that helped me so much. With your experiences as a cadre member at FTU 21, how efficient do you think our field training preparation program was?
The metrics that I've already received from headquarters would tell me that, we're doing the right things in a lot of areas. They have metrics that every single detachment gets measured at, like, here's your overall aggregate score of all the cadets. Here's where they did at the PT test. Here's where they did at this. we finished slightly above average in most categories. We did not reach the top 20% in any, which is I don't really care about. I'm not trying to chase statistics. I'm trying to build leaders. We had a much larger sample size than some schools did when we're sending almost 50 people and other schools are sending 10. So the numbers probably would have looked a lot more normal for other detachments as well had they sent as many as we did. Other large detachments like Texas A&M, for instance, had similar scores to us across the board because I think that starts to normalize the bell curve, right? To directly answer how does FTP prepare us, I think there are a lot of things FTP that we do well. We have resources that other detachments simply do not have, and I'm going to continue to take every advantage of them I can, because things like Camp Bullis, things like the Beast facility at Lackland, other detachments only could dream of having that. When I went to Mississippi State, yeah, Columbus Air Force Base was pretty close by, but they didn't have those types of facilities. So going through an exercise at Columbus Air Force Base was no value. So we didn't even do it. I'm going to continue to push for those things. Those are very valuable experiences in my mind. And from the feedback I got from cadets, they enjoyed it too. So double whammy, right? I think there are some things that we can continue to grow on, and really any organization, if we sit on our laurels and we say, no, we're in a good place and that's all we want to be, that's where you start to stagnate, and eventually that's where you start to regress. I always want us to seek for better. It doesn't mean I'm going to say that we are doing poorly. Far from it. I think we are doing very well. But how can we be better? That's a good officer trait. That's a good human trait. How can I be better today? How can I be better tomorrow? How can the person who is 35 be a better human being than they were at 25? And it doesn't even mean that at 25 you were bad. It means how am I growing? How am I learning? How am I developing? How can I be a better human, a better leader for the troops I will be in charge of, for my family that I may have one day, for myself? I want to get us to better. Some of the things that I know that we can work on, and it's feedback from the cadets who went there this summer themselves. A lot of you felt like you lacked in confidence. I'm not saying this is a broad brushstroke. These are the feedbacks I've received from my officers who did the FTPR reviews. That some people felt that they just maybe didn't have confidence. Well, let's find out some ways that we can put more of our underclassmen out in front and put them out under the spotlight, not in a place where they have to feel stressed and getting like, oh, I can't succeed, but let them go out and try to lead something and fail. Let's let the sophomores go lead PT this semester, maybe, just thinking off the top of my head, and go let them lead it, plan it, do it, and when they fail, debrief them. Or if they do well at one particular aspect, look at that, grow from this, gain confidence. I need you all to gain confidence so that you then step up. I mean, guess what? Field training, it's a stressful environment. You're going to be put in uncomfortable positions. That's the whole purpose of it. So being confident in yourself to go, you know what, I can step up and do this. Yeah, maybe I've never even seen it. I don't care how well you land nav. I truly don't. That's something that might be a medium that they are evaluating cadets on, but what they're actually grading you on is leadership, and part of leadership is having confidence. Part of leadership is grit. When General Levitt came to speak to us last year, and that entire 45-minute discussion she boiled down to one word, it was grit. How do you succeed in this world? Some toughness, some resilience. I need to imbue you all with that. I need to have you embrace that and say, I may not have all the answers. I may not know how to solve this problem yet, but I'm not going to back down from it. I'm not going to be afraid to put my hand up in the air and say, I can do this, I can lead it. And I'm going to be strong enough that even if I fail, I'm going to dust myself off. I'm going to get up, I'm going to take the flag, and I'm going to charge forward again. Because that's what good officers can do. And that's what good airmen want. And that's what our units, that's what our Air Force, ultimately that's what our country needs. We need those type of people. It's out there on the walls, ownership and partnership, right? So teamwork, you don't have to do it all by yourself, but you need to be tough, and you need to be confident, and you need to go out and say, I can do this. And then, okay, if you're not number one in the room, who cares? But you're striving to be a better version of yourself. That's how you succeed. And that's certainly how you will get noticed at field training among your peers, when you have the wallflowers who are too scared to step up and want to just survive. Okay, congratulations, you might get through field training, but you're not growing.
Sir, and I really appreciate that perspective, specifically because, you know, obviously you spoke of the FTPRs. I went through my own with Major Medina when I got back. And the biggest thing I had for her was I noticed amongst my peers at field training, and then even within myself at some points, was it takes a certain type of leader to be 100% confident that you are doing, like, you're doing the right thing, you have the answer, and someone say, nope, that's not going to work. And then now it's like, what do I do? I thought I had it right. And those were the moments where I felt like I saw a lot of people struggle, and I struggled myself. It's just like, when you do everything by the book, you have this, the cadet handbook, the field training manual, and you do everything by the book, and it still doesn't go your way. It just kind of going from that point. I think that's something that's really important that we were taught at field training, that we're taught here at DET 842, and that's something that's going to prepare us to be an exceptional officer in the Air Force, especially when so many people are counting on you to be able to operate in that kind of margin. And that was a big lesson and learning point for me. One thing I did want to ask you is, was there a lesson or like a learning point for you that you brought back from field training, whether it be from cadets or a fellow FTU staff, or even just something you realized while you were there?
I don't know if there was some eureka moment while I was at field training. As I got to interact with a lot of other staff, though, I mean, one of the great things is that I just got to meet other staff and hear other inputs. So I've got a bigger network to just go phone a friend, start asking other commanders, other leaders across the enterprise, other officers and NCOs about what's a better way for us to execute something. So Major Seal was there with me as well, and we spent a number of hours over the summer talking, okay, what are some little ideas? And I think Major Seal is going to be implementing a lot of that in terms of how do we just give people chances to go out, like I mentioned, and get that chance to lead and probably fail, and then be debriefed and go, okay, now I'm better because I've learned. We learn more through failure often than we do through our successes. So trying to figure out some of those methods. There's a lot of things that other detachments do that, quite frankly, we may not be resourced for. A friend of mine who is the cadet commander at Auburn University, their university has some other resources that they're able to provide that we simply don't have here in terms of facilities that are offered to ROTC. So as UTSA continues to grow, maybe one day, and I continue to advocate for it, and so does my Army counterpart here, for more resources. I mean, they're improving that workout intramural fields. That's going to be a win for us. But little things like that just take time and they take investment, and UTSA is a younger university than a university like Auburn that has been established for a long, long time with lots of alumni. So there are just a few things where resource-wise we will continue to take advantage of our good pluses like JBSA in our backyard and use those relationships, and continue to work with the university on more facilities and more things that we can have, more budgetary opportunities that we can have, and that may even include reaching out to the alumni and maybe seeing if the alumni can throw in a few pennies to us every year, because if they can, well, maybe I can get some more cool stuff, like love to get some paintball guns, and then we could practice some of those skill sets with paintballs instead of having my cadets spend very, very limited dollars that they have on trying to go do a paintball exercise where we can, again, put you in a place where we stress you a little, not the same as field training, but let you get stressed and let you be in something that most people are uncomfortable doing, and then you have a chance to succeed. To take a quick sidetrack to your comment about just once you get through the checklist and it's like, oh, now what do I do? Well, that's critical thinking, and I'll never be able to prepare you for all of the situations you'll face. It's not feasible for us to be able to do that, and through any accession source. The academy can't do it, and they've got far more money and officers assigned to that unit than we ever do in ROTC. OTS can't do it. I can't have you prepped for everything in the world you're going to face. What I can do is build what my old boss at the Command and Staff College used to say, habits of mind and patterns of inquiry. How can I learn how to ask the right questions? How can I learn how to then assess what's going on around me, to critically think about and analyze the situation, take in new inputs? That other maybe cadet who said, hey, what about this? Because I think your idea may miss the point here on this LRC, but what about this? And to take those inputs and go, okay, well, I've asked the right questions. I'm in the right frame of mind. I've built the right habits of mind of how I can analyze. And now we'll go forth and conquer. And maybe the solution I've come up with, if it's time critical, like an LRC, maybe it wasn't the most pristine answer, but it gets us to mission success. Great! Hooray! Win! If you got more time, like think about somebody being a Projo here for Camp Bullis this semester, for instance. Well, maybe there's a few other ideas and things that they can do as they get time to actually assess and collect data and analyze and then make a decision. But how do I build some of those critical thinking skill sets so that when it's very time critical, you go, I'm not going to freeze. Doesn't have to be the perfect answer, but we're going to go forth with an 80% solution that'll get us towards good. And then if we figure out the other 20% along the way, hooray. But we're going to get marching forward. And that's where I think me seeing it in person at field training and seeing some of the times where people would like freeze like a deer in headlights versus the people who could say, I can process this, I can internalize it, and move forward. May not have been the best answer, but it was an answer. By God, it was an answer. And they started moving. Hey, that's some confidence. I'll debrief you on how you can maybe be better. And that's the same thing we do in the airplane. That's the same thing I teach my students flying an F-15. It's the same skill sets, and they will be repeated over and over and over again in your career. And if I can just give you a little taste of it here, then maybe I'm setting you up for success.
And that's one thing that I really like about the experience that I've had here is I think you guys as cadre do a really good job of, like you said, it's not that you want to answer the questions for us. You don't want to give us the answers. You want to prepare us on how to get the answers ourselves and how to use the resources that we have and our wingmen to receive those answers. And I think that's probably the best mindset that you can have coming out of our OTC, because eventually, like you said, we're going to become those officers, and we're not going to have, the cadre. Obviously, we're going to have superiors, but we're not going to have cadres experience and resources as easily as we do now. Another thing that you mentioned that I kind of wanted to go into was, I'm glad you talked about the networking aspect of anything ROTC really. For cadre, like you said, going to field training, you already got to network with more officers, more peers. Day one as an AS100 here, you beat some detachments already on networking because our classes are just a good enough size to where right off the bat you're already networking with so many people who are probably going to be officers commissioning at the same time, if not around the same time as you. Also, then you get to network with cadre. We're like in Military City here in San Antonio, so there's so many people that have been able to come speak with us, share their experiences. You mentioned General Levitt, and there's been so many others. It really makes you appreciate kind of that aspect of ROTC. That might not be something that you get to do if, like, let's say you go OTS and you didn't know that the military lifestyle is kind of what you wanted. Maybe you weren't working on that until you got up to that point. So that's one thing that I have really enjoyed about being here at DET 842. So going into your second year, we talked kind of about your first year, the expectations, and kind of where we fell. In going into your second year, what are some challenges that you foresee, as well as like what are your goals? What's your vision for the year?
The challenges are going to be, I think they're probably fairly consistent with what's going on in our world, right? There are challenges with COVID that still exist. The fact that we had to turn off our in-person classes for the first 3 weeks, albeit we could do at least PT and lead lab, but try to minimize the amount of exposures as the Delta variant surge was hitting our city. That's going to continue to be something we have to overcome. Challenges with, again, just resource limitations. ROTC is unfortunately not given a large operating budget, so a lot of the relationships, I'm going to have a meeting next week, for instance, with the Beast Cadre from Lackland about our next exercise there, and continuing to mold and build those relationships, because those people are giving. It's not a resource that's on my books, it's more of a present that we're getting. So as we continue to build those relationships, that's it. Things that need to be happening at my level, cadre level, and then down to the upper class POC that are assigned to be projos, to then continue to work that that kind of relationship at that lower level with the Projo that's assigned from the other units as we continue to do things. Incentive flights, those are all a lot of things that I'm trying to get built in. And those would just be challenges as we continue to overcome resource limitations while also using our local area and the people who are willing to give to us to overcome that. Those are some of the big challenges. Just the challenges of trying to teach cadets in a large detachment with a small staff. While I have a bigger staff than most detachments, my per cadet, ratio is a lot lower than some of those smaller detachments who, while they have less cadre, when they have far fewer cadets, it's just they could give a lot more personalized attention. So how can I make sure that I'm giving as much of my cadre to you as possible to help you all, and you guys meeting us halfway as well? Like something simple as donuts with the commander that I got to do with the 100s last year, and we couldn't get all of them, but we got at least some of them. I got a lot of positive feedback from that. Are there other little avenues that I can push that you all can pull from your side, saying we have ideas, we want to do this, there's value? It's, again, like all resources, it's not inexhaustible. My time and my cadre's time is precious, just like your time is precious. You have other things that are going on, but where can we make additive changes that are for positive, for good? In terms of my goals, I outlined them a lot in that first commander's call. My three big goals in terms of my CC intent for this semester, we're going to continue to hone our training. I want training to be at the highest level we can. A lot of that means in person. It just helps my underclassmen as they prep for the next stage. It'll have my 200s ready for FTP semester as we continue to grow them. It'll make my upperclassmen learn how to lead. My juniors who have spent the last 2 years as underclassmen now getting the chance to step out at that lowest level of the organization in a leadership role and be flight commanders and go out and actually teach and coach. So for my POC, the expectations that culture of performance, that we're not going to look at things and say this is hard, so we're not going to do it. No, this may be hard. We're going to go kick its butt. We're going to find an innovative new way to come up with something, or if it's not having to come up with a new way to do it, but just here's how I can learn how to do this tried and true method, and me go out and practice my leadership skills and be adaptable, be flexible, be courageous. To say, I will not let hard challenges make me back down and shrivel in a corner and say it's too difficult, I can't achieve. The last piece is community. We've lost it. We've lost a lot of community, and you can look at it on the UTSA campus. You can look at it as you walk the streets of San Antonio. You can look at it as you watch the news. Like, people have been kind of cloistered in their houses for the last year and a half, and just getting out and getting to build relationships, a lot of that's been lost. So my staff has embraced it with my goals, my vision, and I know that my upperclassmen are understanding my goals. The wing staff certainly is on board. I want us to rebuild community. Does that necessarily mean just community service? No. It's a nice extra piece to have. But what I envision is that story I told from being a freshman and feeling the sense of home. A place where I belonged, that I felt valued and worth. I want that for my underclassmen. I want the freshmen to want to be sophomores. I want the sophomores to want to be POC, and I want the POC to want to be the best darn version of themselves that they could possibly grow to become in their time here, so that they can be good officers, exceptional officers, if I can get them there. That's my mission statement. That's my vision for the whole long-term growth of my cadets, is to make you the best version of you I can make you, to gift you to the men and women of the Air Force and say, here's a good one. I've made you a good one. And a lot of that's on your shoulders. You got to meet me halfway. You've got to be vested in the organization. You will not get out of this good things if you only do men-run, minimum effort things. If you don't work on your PT, guess what? You're not going to do well at the PT test. If you don't work on your school, you're probably going to fail classes and fail your way out of school. If you don't work at ROTC to become better, just involved in some way. Doesn't mean you have to be the best person at drill and ceremonies. Doesn't mean that you're the best person doing anything. But how are you growing? There's always going to be somebody better. In every room you walk into, you can look and say, am I the smartest? Am I the tallest? Am I the best looking? Am I the fastest? Am I the strongest? Pick any ist you want. There's going to be somebody better. And there'll be somebody worse. You shouldn't be a narcissist who says, look at me, yay me, I'm the best person in the room, so beat my chest and it's all about me. If you happen to be the smartest person in the room or the best person in the room, this is an analogy, right? Then you should be humble and say, I can help make other people better. I can coach them, I can teach them, I can bring them up. In terms of my POC, how do I learn how to coach and teach? Show somebody what right looks like. Then let them go try it. And then I coach them a little bit along the way, like, ooh, you made that mistake, but I'm going to coach you, I'm going to get you better. And then if we've done that, and we've given them their chance with a little corrections, and then we give them that next opportunity, now you go do it, oh, no, okay, now I'm going to have to give you the military, like, you obviously aren't investing your own effort, person who's being coached and trained and taught, because you're not learning. And then we also need to assess ourselves, well, what did I coach and teach that I could do better? Is there a way I can get around to providing a different way to reach this person? Because not everybody learns the same way. So, community, taking it all back, I know it seems like I'm rambling, I probably am, but community means I build a place where my upperclassmen embrace the underclassmen. And the underclassmen embrace the organization and go, I've made friends here. I've made relationships here. I've found my why. I believe in what this place is doing. I believe in what it can help me become. And I have a long-term goal that actually aligns with what the Air Force says it wants. And then now I've got you. Now I've kind of got my hook in you. And now I can start developing you. And then the rest of the community is, let's give back to the rest of our community because it makes us grow. My goal, striving to have you be better. How can I make you better? How can I make myself better? I'm 40 years old, but I am not a finished product. I better be learning and growing. And how can we grow and learn and help our community? How can we invest more in the university through some relationships that may even be beneficial to us? As we continue to grow our relationship with the athletic department, they're probably going to give us more opportunities to use some of their facilities. That's just a benefit for my cadets. But maybe we also get to go do cool stuff, like be on the midfield of the football game with the big flag and get to be, like, hey, we are tied with this university, invested, and our futures together are intertwined to grow positively together. With the local community, some of the outreach that you all have already embraced, your cadet wing has embraced. I'm not going to pick which volunteer organizations you want to go to. I'm not going to force you. I can't voluntold you to volunteer because then it's not even useful. I just want you to have an innate desire to care about something that is more important than you. And to give. I've got 200 cadets here. I've got a gift. Talent. Simple manpower that I can give to our community. I want you all to embrace that. It doesn't mean you all have to go volunteer and do Habitat for Humanity this Saturday and this organization, but how can I give of myself to something that is more important than me? It is a valuable skill set for an officer to learn, because when you get on active duty, you will give of yourself to the men and women you lead, to the organizations you're a part of, and to the mission itself. How can I teach you and get you to embrace that? And that's my goals. So we're going to continue to train well and train hard and instill military discipline. I want you all to understand this is a military organization. I want my upperclassmen in particular to really embrace the culture of performance, because that leads to success on the active duty side. And I want you all to learn how to be a community. Again, we've lost it. How can I get you there? And that's where you all come in. I don't have your answers. I don't pretend to. But collectively, with the 200 plus of us counting our cadre, we can get to a better answer. And we'll grow together, and we'll become something better on the backside. Doesn't mean that we'll have to always be best. Best is temporal, it is short term. But long term is to think of better, however incrementally small that may be. And that's what I'm shooting for.
And I think a lot of the points that you were kind of hitting on there all tie back into that family that you were talking about. Obviously, now the AS400s, so my class, and a little bit of the AS300s are really the only ones who got to experience what normal was, right?
Yeah.
And so now we have a POC core that obviously is very hardworking. A lot of people are very driven to be here, but they don't quite know what that normal was. They've just known kind of the adaptations we've had to make. And I know you, as much as anyone else, really want to get us back to not necessarily normal, but in person, doing the training to its full extent that we want to. And my question is, what message would you send to those cadets who don't really know what that normal is yet, whether it be a 100 or a 300? What message would you send to them going into the semester for them to have their best chance of success?
Invest of yourself and your time. Now, for my 100s in particular, but even my 300s, as my 300s are learning how to become POC. POC have a lot more responsibilities than GMC, especially in a wing the size of ours. In a smaller wing, there may be just less day-to-day tasks, simply because there are fewer people to have to help administratively run and work. My POC are busy. There's a lot of underclassmen that they're trying to teach and coach, and big projects we're trying to do. I acknowledge that. So that's an extra time management burden that my POC need to learn how to do. But guess what? That's fantastic leadership lab. That's not part of leadership lab. It's just part of learning how to be an officer, because your time as an officer is going to be very precious. And you're going to have being pulled in 10 different directions and trying to figure out, how can I manage these tasks and prioritize? For a freshman, it's no different. How can I manage time with, I know some of them may still be living at home, but many of them may be living in an apartment or a dorm for the first time outside of the house. Nobody's managing your schedule anymore but you. You can get yourself in a square corner pretty quickly if you don't learn how to prioritize, to focus on studies when you need to focus on PT when you need to invest in ROTC or any other organization you wish to be in, but how to focus on what are the things that must be done versus what are the things that are nice to haves or that I wish to do for fun. And how can I manage all those things? Jobs. How can I have the money to pay the bills to then be able to do everything else? Like, how can I manage all those time investments and then know when to prioritize them? Like, it's that time for that test I need to actually study for, instead of waiting until the last minute so that I walk out with an A instead of a C. And I set myself up for success, because for freshmen in particular, that first semester, you can almost set the tone for your entire college career. I had I think it was like a 3.68 or something my first semester in mechanical engineering. And I rode that high GPA off of those 18 hours for the next 5 years. Now, I was making 3.0, 3.1, whatever, but I kept consistently higher GPA as opposed to a freshman who might walk in, not pay attention to classes and get that 2.0, and now you're trying to fight to raise it up instead of being able to ride that wave in the quote-unquote easier freshman classes than your really hard senior classes. But back to the original word answer, invest. I need you to be able to invest that time. The old adage, the old proverb of I can take a horse to water, but I can't make it drink. We can provide a lot of opportunity here, and we do. We can come up with some great ideas, and we're trying to, and I'm imploring you all to help me come up with those ideas of how do we find normal. But you've got to invest your time. You're going to get out of it what you put into it. If you men run this, you're going to be unfulfilled. And then you'll probably leave, if you're an underclassman in particular. If you're investing time in it, and again, I don't need you to be here 40 hours a week. I don't need you to be the person who volunteers for every single thing. And then your school and your PT and your work all suffer so then you can't pay the bills, you can't be eligible to be a cadet because you're not eligible for grades or PT or anything. Be well-rounded and balanced, but invest of yourself. If you're spending 10 hours binge watching Netflix instead of doing something that could be for somebody else, what are you doing effectively with your time? There's a time and a place where 10 hours of binge watching Netflix might just be the medicine you need to recharge your batteries internally and go face the world. If that's your daily medicine, we need to reassess why that's your daily medicine. How can we get you involved? I was involved in RTC as a freshman, heavily. I also did fraternity, and I did honors college, and I was very busy as a mechanical engineering student. But I knew RTC. I had some really close friends, and I invested in it. And I got from that investment a feeling of belonging. So as you invest, then you can help come up with ideas. I'm not going to shoot down a freshman's idea of, hey, sir, what about this cool thing we can do? I mean, I might tell you no for resources. I might say, have we run it through the chain? You know, I don't need 100 freshmen running into my office and say, hey, sir, I've got a great idea. Like, my time is limited. But as we come up with ideas, I implore the cadet wing. I want to elicit those good ideas from you of what do you think could be something that builds our community, that gets us back to a normal, that gets us to be together, while also accomplishing our other objectives of training you well and of learning and growing. And if that can all nest together, great. You guys can help me. If you're just dependent on me to come up with all your answers, you will find yourself unsatisfied. I promise you that.
I think it's really good advice, what you said about just kind of investing your time. And I say that for anyone. Obviously, as an ROTC cadet, but also just a college student or with work and family life, like anyone can benefit from that. And that's one thing I've really liked about our program too, is even if you don't decide that this is what you want to do, if you don't decide to commission or wherever life takes you after here, like you learn those kinds of lessons. And so I think that's very important for incoming GMC as well as even POC that we have now. Sir, I want to thank you for your time. You've given us a lot of great advice, also given us kind of some perspective into this upcoming semester and what we can grow on from last semester. And I just want to give you any time that you have now to speak to your cadet corps.
I've kept you hostage long enough if you've stayed to watch this. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I truly do want to get to invest more time into you all. I promise I will do the Donuts with the Commander option some more to get a chance to meet my underclassmen. My seniors are my focus because I'm the AS instructor and I have other cadre allotted to the other courses. So that's your primary node, obviously, for things related to school and any questions you have and issues you have. But I want to talk. I want to be involved. I want my favorite part of this job is getting to mentor to the cadets, to get to be involved with you. To get to try to just share some of your life and impart some of mine to you. You are my legacy. I will be gone from this Air Force before your careers are over. I promise you that. Even if I decide to stay in beyond retirement eligibility and go try to be an 06 or anything, I will be gone. And this is yours. This Air Force and now Space Force, they're yours to take charge of, to take into the future. I said it at the commissioning this past spring. I will never again be a unit leader at the tactical level, i.e. at the squadron level. If I continue into command roles beyond this, it will be as a commander of commanders. That means being an 06 in charge of other people who are unit commanders. I'll never be at the hands-on, I get to directly influence the airman level the way I am here. And you all are my legacy. So I'm going to work my butt off to try to do the best I can and be the best I can for you. And I ask that you invest in me equally. And you will grow. You won't have all the answers, but you will grow and you will be better prepared for the future you face. And then I will leave a good legacy on the Air Force. I will leave good lieutenants who will go forth and conquer and have a positive impact on other people's lives. People that I will never see across every AFSC the Air Force may possibly have. That's called generational impact. It's what I focus about with this job. It's what I'm focusing my staff on. It's what you guys as POC can do as well. Impact beyond yourself and impact beyond the people that you will touch personally, that you will see and interact with, but how you make a positive influence on others that will ripple through time and space to the people beyond you. You're my legacy. So I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to do the best I possibly can, and I will fail many times. And I will dust myself off, and I will get up again, and I'll try to hot wash and figure out how I can do better. And I ask that you all do the same and meet me halfway. And I think that you'll be better suited for your futures in the Air Force. I think that you will grow along the way, and then you can take whatever bits of my message that resonate with you and say, I'll put that in my toolbox. I'm better. I like that Colonel Hoffman message, or I like that Major Medina message, or that Mr. Yano message. Those things resonate with me. Not everything will. That's okay. I'm not asking you to be my mirror. I'm asking you to be yourself, but then say that if there's something of value that I'm providing, that you take it and you make it yours, and you own it, and you modify it, and you turn it into something that you can then gift to others. That's my legacy for the future. And it's why I wanted to be here. It's why I like being here. And it's what I hope you all can learn to embrace yourselves.
Sir, thank you for that message. And again, thank you so much for coming out and just being willing to speak with us on the podcast. And thank you to the viewers for coming out and watching with us today. I'm really excited about where we go this semester. Obviously, I'm very excited with the possible return to in-person coming up. And yeah, I'm super happy that we're getting to do this, and we're going to be really excited to bring more experiences and careers and just different officers and enlisted or whoever we can to the podcast to give you a good glimpse at kind of what we do here, what the Air Force looks like, what you're getting yourself into, and bringing that content to the channel. But that's all we're going to have for today, and thank you for joining us.